Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Justa's Conversation, right here on Usala Radio, with your host, Brian O'Neill and Luis Gonzalez.
This is Conversations. I'm Tower on the Street. Dr. Brian O'Neill, Luis Suave Gonzalez. Our guest today is our own, Usala's own, Edwin Desamour. And he is host of The Wall. He's also a community activist. He's also the associate dean of the Stetson Middle School. Does a lot of community work, a lot of speaking engagements. And he's here to talk a little bit about his background and his life and how he got to be who he is.
Good question.
Welcome.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here on the show with you guys.
So you came from pretty humble beginnings, Edwin.
Yeah, pretty much. Born and raised here, not too far from here, a few blocks away, in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia.
Gotcha.
Streets of West Kensington.
And you had some traumatic things in your past
Yeah.
that brought you through a long trip. So you also endured some incarceration along the way.
Yes.
Okay.
I was 16 when I was arrested. I was charged with first-degree murder at that time, facing life and death penalty. Around that time, you were allowed to get the death penalty at 16 before they overruled that. So I remember when I was charged and I was told that I was facing life or death penalty and found guilty. So I remember that clearly in 1989, June 6th of 1989. So yeah, pretty much someone born and raised down here, basically watch how this community change. Like, I remember our community being that one community as block parties and people getting along. You had a community, we actually, to be honest, we didn't really understand that, or I don't want to say knew, but that we were poor because we were enjoying life. But around the mid-'80s, when the crack epidemic and the drugs hit the streets and you see folks getting involved, folks start to turn against each other, folks started making money, the community started to divide, the hope, the dreams that we had as kids, when you walk into an elementary school and you ask children, what do you want to be when you get older? And everybody's raising their hand and saying what it was. I'll never forget, everybody knew what they wanted to be, but that kind of strayed and disappeared because the only thing that was on your mind now was like you wanted your own spot, you wanted to run a drug corner, you wanted to have the big gold chains, you wanted all these things. So the vision kind of like shifted because what you were exposed to. You also were exposed to some of the people who end up getting respect in the streets, and the way they got respect was through either violence or the money that they had or how many ladies they had. So it's kind of like when you think about the development of a young person's mind in that community, this is what they're seeing and this is what they're exposed to. So it was kind of me looking at that saying, okay, I'm going to pick one of these or I'm going to be all three, all four, and try to be like that. So I kind of, I had some good seeds planted in my life, with mom and a couple of folks. But at the end of the day, once you walk out that door, and some of that stuff was in my house. My father was involved with some of the stuff that was going on. So I was exposed to it through that, I was exposed to my father acting out or committing certain violent acts out in the streets and seeing how he got his respect. So I ended up following certain footsteps, and violence wasn't something that was a strange thing to see or something new. It was kind of like, okay, there's a fight happening. It was a fight, I ended up in a situation where I thought it was going to just be a fight. I didn't even know the guys. I only knew one or two of the guys. Met everybody that night, if that. And when my incident happened, I thought it was just going to be a little fight here and there, and someone ended up dying that night. But it went to a whole nother level because the person who ended up dying that night was the son of a police officer. So this time around, this is different from every other incident I've been involved with. You've been involved with fights where sometimes something happened, but they didn't arrest everybody. But this time, they were arresting everyone. So the case was pretty political. Went to trial. I was found guilty of third-degree murder. I was sentenced to 7 to 20. I ended up doing 8.5 years total. But when you look at the sentence, I'm not saying I was an angel or innocent kid, but when you really look at sentences, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, they gave me 7 to 20. So the way I look at it, that tail was put there to keep me in and out that system.
Sure.
So
Did you do that time in the an adult system?
yeah, when I was certified as an adult, I went. There was a certain floor at the youth study center at that time, where it was just those who were certified as adults, fifth floor security, and we had prison guards there from the prison. There was prison guards, not no
Right.
counselors. There were
Right.
prison guards. Then after that, I was transferred to the House of Correction, and there was a juvenile block there. So I was on a juvenile block on the House of Correction, where there were adults everywhere. The adults served us our food. Matter of fact, half of our block was split up with the whole. The adults were sent. So the ones who were the menace in the prison, that's who we were exposed to as juveniles. So we had a thin gate. So if you want to look for mentors, we were getting mentored by the guys who were,
All right.
involved with everything you could think about in the prison, but they were there and they had conversations with us. So then after that, I turned 18 and went on to population to pick. And I was there for a while until I got found guilty and sentenced. And from there, at 19, I made it to Greatest Fort. I was in Greatest Fort for about 2 years. And then after that, I was sent to Rock View Penitentiary, where I did all my time.
Okay. So, at what point do you think in this journey did you recommit yourself to a different lifestyle?
I think for me, there were certain things, like I always talk about seeds, how certain seeds are planted, but sometimes you can plant your own seeds sometimes. I remember one time on the block, sometimes they used to bring extra trays to the block, extra food. And I was watching this gentleman who came in with the food cart. And he was an elderly gentleman. He was pretty old. And I met him once and I was talking to him. He was in and out of jail since he was 13. Someone who's been through the juvenile system back and forth. And I remember talking to him and I'm looking at him and he was pretty old. And I said to myself, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that old in prison. And I remember having those thoughts. So I knew it was pretty clear that I wanted to stay out, once, I was released.
Sure. So once you got out, what did you immerse yourself in?
Well, I ended up getting a barber license
Okay.
while I was in prison, so I was able to get a job right away at a barber shop. Within a few months, I ended up running the barber shop. The owner left to L.A., so he left me in charge. It was like 11 chairs. So I was in there, and I think I was able to take charge and be involved because I think there are certain things with prison that set you up for positive things also. It might sound a little crazy, but I was kind of disciplined. I showed up on time, did what I had to do, and also I was straightforward with things. I wasn't excuse my language, half-assing anything. Right? This is what time you come in, this is what time we leave, and I had no problem firing somebody.
Did you get your barber training in prison?
Yep.
Okay.
Got my barber license in prison. I went to barber school, so was cutting hair out the barber shop and then ended up being the manager of the shop. But then again, too, I was at a place where, to be honest, after 8.5 years and I was 16, I still wasn't equipped mentally to deal with some of the outside forces that were coming in.
Sure.
And I knew that. I was able to understand that energy wasn't well. Like, you have folks that were still heavy entrenched with certain things, and I felt as though, like, I'm still exposed to the wrong things, and I don't want to be around certain things, which, you don't want to get caught up in. So I remember having those thoughts, and I wanted out. And I remember I used to apply for different jobs, even though I was making good money at the barbershop, but I was trying to find a way out. And every time I would apply for a job, people would call me in, "Yo, you are perfect for this job. We want you here." But then next year my record popped up. And that started to become, you start to become discouraged and, depression starts to sit in. And, me and Lewis, we had these talks before. It's like when I came home, it was like you're home, but it's almost like you're alone, right? You have your family who has evolved and struggled while you were gone, because time kept moving for them. So you start finding yourself like you have family, but it's like I always talk about that movie Meet the Fockers, where he drew the circle. He said, "This is the circle and this is you." You literally start feeling like that sometimes. Like you're trying to fit in with your family, but you don't. So what I found myself connecting with people who did time or that were there with me, and I started to feel like that's my family. because this is who I grew up with in prison. This is who I'm around, and this is who I relied on when I needed to talk. So when I found out someone was home, I wanted to, oh, such made home, and we had this type of bond, and I felt like comfortable there.
Right.
It was like some type of brotherhood or a bond that,
It's a fraternity or brotherhood. Because if you don't mind me, buddy, then it's almost like you understand me better than anybody else. Because you've been there through my darkest moment. You've been through them. And coming home is feel the same way. When I came home, I remember I bumped into him. And he was like, yo, we got to get together. Be careful. That's all he said, be careful. And every time I saw him after that, it was like, yo, you all right? Be careful. Right? Because I was doing too much. I was moving too fast. And I was helping others, but I wasn't getting the help I need. I was disguising my little trauma. And I ended up going back to prison for 85 days. And that's why it's important that we come home, we bond with each other. Because guess what? If I would have had somebody at that time that would have sat me down and said, yo, you're making the wrong decision. You don't need to be married to somebody. It's for right now. You don't even own a home. You're still in a halfway house. So, but I didn't have that. To me, that was the right thing. Because when you're in prison, you start getting these ideas. I want a family. I want to be part of the community. I want a car. You want to be part of the norm out here.
You feel like you have to make up for lost time.
Yeah, you got to make up for lost time. What you realize is that the norm out here sometimes ain't right. The norm out here sometimes is not right. Sometimes you got to go through the people that've been with you to understand what you're going through. Because to everybody else, I was like, oh, you doing your thing. You doing good. But when I went home at night, I was like lonely, depressed, oppressed. Because I found out that being married, that was like being locked up again. It was like being locked up again. And it was a situation that I'm glad it ended up the way it did. Because it woke me up. And it could have been worse. So I'm glad it just ended up. I always say things happen for a reason. Because when I went in this time for 85 days, although it felt like 85 years, I found myself. I really, really found myself. And when I got out, the first thing I did, I went to therapy. So I got to go to therapy. I need some help with certain internal problems that I was disguising and not addressing. And only someone that been in the inside could understand that. Like someone out here could try, but you can't because you never been in that other side of the wall. Yeah. So when I see him, and I used to hear about him in the prison because he had this group called Mimic. And we used to hear about all the great things that was doing. And I wrote him a couple of times. He never wrote me back when he was with Gimmick. Never got him, but we wrote him. And I was like, damn, man, here you got a young brother that went home and doing all the right thing that we supposed to do. And we always talk about it. The reason I wanted him on the show is so people can see, man, that no matter where you are in life, you still can make a difference. A lot of the things that I do, I rip right off a page from him. For real, because when I came home this time, it was like, if it works for him, I know it got to work for me. It ain't nothing wrong with saying that. Ain't nothing wrong with saying, I love what he do. All the way because he's helping the next generation. To hear somebody that's been in prison, that came home, that's not as a dean of a school, that is a major accomplishment for anybody. So nobody could tell me out there we can't do it. It don't work. They're not going to hire me.
same school where I got kicked out by the dean.
That's ironic.
So I say to people, take a look, man. What you seeing here is people that have been in the system. Combined together, it's almost 40 years in prison. Combined together. So you can't tell me that it can't be done. And we got to go on a commercial break. You listening to a Justice Conversation on Usala Radio.
Hello, my name is Melvin Prince Johnny, and I'm running for the 3rd Congressional District, City of Philadelphia, in the great state of Pennsylvania. We're 16 days in January. There's more than 22 killings in our city. You need a community congressman that will go block by block, door by door, and fix this problem. Now, I think it's economics, but you might think it's something else. And I'm coming so you can tell me what it is. Once again, my name is Melvin Prince Johnnick, and I'm running for the 3rd Congressional District. Thank you.
Because of you, I feel not alone in this world. And you let me know that it only takes one person to make you feel wanted.
All right, welcome back to Justice Conversations. Dr. Brian O'Neill, Luis Suave Gonzalez, and our guest, Edwin Desamour. And I also want to mention we're brought to you by Westchester University, our sponsor. Edwin, so your transition, obviously a lot of steps you went through because the things you're doing now, far removed from being a barber. So what was your first step out of being a barber?
My first step, to be honest, during that transition, I understood that I was in a position where it wasn't healthy for me, and saying that again, like just the environment with folks, and I wanted more. There was something I wanted more. There's always something in me I want more. And as a barber, you end up being some type of a counselor or psychiatrist type of thing because folks were coming to the table. So you were talking to people, you were talking to young people, so that kind of flowed naturally, where you had young people even come back with their friends. Hey, can you tell him what you told me earlier in the chair? I'm like, oh wow, like you really was appreciating what I was telling you. So it was that type of thing, but there was a good thing to that too. There was a good aspect to that, but the transition was, I never forget, there was a time, family owned the business, some things happened where I kind of like snapped out, where things could have happened where I could have ended up back. Put me in a position where I was just angry, frustrated, felt as though like maybe I need to be a part of these streets. Maybe, because this is what happens, the reason I'm putting it out there, because and hopefully there's someone that's experienced this type of thing coming home listening to this, that I was tempted to just, okay, let me hit these streets. I remember I had my little brother, who was like a big brother to me, he's a pastor now, but he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe this is me. This is the life I have to live. He's like, you say you didn't want to be like Dad. I was like, well, like nobody's hiring me. People, I pay my debt to society, and I feel like I still owe, because I couldn't get a job anywhere. So he was like, if I introduce you to a gentleman by the name of James Mills, he runs a program called PAN, the Philadelphia Anti-Drug Anti-Violence Network. So I was like, if he hires me, then I'll take the job. But I really thought I was going to get the job. And I didn't even know how to go to an interview. I went in sandals and everything, and I never forget, he looked over and was like, oh, nice sandals. I was like, oh, thank you. And next he hired me. And it came out to be that he was someone who came from a background of the streets and everything, and he rose to a place as an executive director. So I could safely say he was like one of the first male positive role models that I had coming home. And watching him and how he spoke to people, how he cared about people. And I never forget, there was a shooting that happened in the neighborhood where a child was shot, and he was so angry about that. And he cleared out the whole agency, even the secretaries. And we all went down to that neighborhood, and he got on top of a soapbox, and he started saying, hey, we're going to take this back. We're not going to have this. And you seen the passion and the hope that was in the eyes of the people from that community, saying, damn, someone came down here to help us and support us. When I saw that, I looked at him and I said, I want to be just like that. I want to be that guy, And so I was so in tune with what he was doing and learning. And then I was doing crisis intervention, so it was pretty easy for me because I knew the streets. I knew how to sit down and get these guys to talk. And I always have this saying that if you add street smarts to your book smarts, you're unstoppable. You're 10 steps ahead of other people. So, they put you on a team, and the folks weren't street smart, but they were book smart. But I was able to quickly knew what they knew, but then apply the stuff that I knew. Then all of a sudden you find yourself getting certain positions very fast, and you're doing things. Mr. Miller passed away 2 years after that. It really hurt me to see someone like that pass away. Another gentleman kind of like picked up the baton of being a mentor. His name is Johnny Irizarry.
That's one of my mentors.
One of my sons were going to the preschool at an organization he was running, and Johnny was someone who took the time out to talk with me. And I would always find myself sitting down and talking with him and pick his brain. I love to have intelligent conversations. I need to be around people who can stimulate my brain. I want to be around smart people, And I wasn't really getting that in the area. Everybody kept talking about the block or the neighborhood, but I needed something else. So I was attracted to that, like sitting down and tell me about what's going on here. Tell me how this world is working,
So a bigger universe.
Yeah, bigger universe. So after that, I got a call from WAR, Women Organized Against Rape. So it came out to be someone saw me speaking somewhere at a camp, and they said they want me to work for them. I was like, what I got in common with you ladies? They was like, we want you to add what you do and add sexual assault, curriculum to that. So I was like, all right. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and it was better than what I was making. And Mr. Mills was gone, so let me try something new. So I went out there, and these ladies opened me with open arms. Like, when organizations down here, my own folks down here would not give me an opportunity to work in their organizations or jobs. These are these ladies that opened the door for me, where the mailman wasn't even allowed in the building. No mail was allowed in that building, not even the mailman. And here I was, not just a man, I was convicted of murder. And they opened their arms. And when I got up in there, I learned how to deliver a curriculum. I quickly learned everything. They knew I had that in me, and how to facilitate, how to teach, how to run the workshop. So I picked up quick and was out and running and being a proud voice for, folks that are dealing with sexual assault and rape and speaking up for them. So I was taking pride in that and helping raise money for what was going on. So as I was doing that, I had a longing to work in my community. And I was watching all these organizations, and I'm the type that, okay, what can I do to, why can't I do the same thing they're doing? So one day I had a captain tell me, I wish I had 1,000 of you. I said, there's thousands of me, but y'all don't give them a chance. When that statement right there is pretty powerful, because you had too many people always saying that. I wish I had a bunch of, there's a ton of me coming home, but no one gives them a chance. So in order to be an executive director, I had to put myself around folks. So I started asking questions, started being around people, started hustling, ear hustling, and getting advice. And next, put some guys together, say, hey, we owe these streets. These kids are mimicking what we do. So we came up with the name Mimic, Man in Motion Community. My sister-in-law actually came up with the name, but I really agreed to that because it really made sense. And got these guys together, and I was able to get my own 501c3, start the organization off. Was able to take these gentlemen from the streets, provide trainings, get them training, because I hustled and watched every other organization, how they did professional development and everything else. Next I actually had contracts in many different schools. And we had these guys working in after-school programs, teachers. So some of these guys were teaching better than teachers. These are guys who did time from the street corner, and they were doing it. Like, they would walk into school, the toughest kids would see them and just, hey, I need to talk. It was something that was going, it was magic. But we had a good thing going on. I had folks employed, making a living. We had some folks working part-time. And then next, a law was passed, which kind of like debunked everything. And I think it was Act 28 or something like that. They passed this law, and it kind of like hurt all my contracts, where I had to stop my guys from coming in. But it was funny about that law, if you get to look it up. Anybody with a criminal record couldn't work in the schools, but if you did white-collar crime, that was the only crime. You could embezzle $2-3 million, and you could work back in the school, but you can't have this type of crime. So you had people who I found out I didn't know did time, like lunch ladies. She's been a lunch lady for 30 years, and now she had to lose her job because she was in a car with her boyfriend that was stolen when she was like 19. And all this stuff was coming up, hurting people. So can you imagine the morale, what it did to the guys that I had working for me and stuff like that? But after that, we were able to find loopholes. You had principals and everybody saying, no, I still need you guys in here somehow. So we were able to find loopholes. And what it was like I couldn't be a direct contractor. Now, you could get the contract, but then you taking the bulk of the money, but then you can hire me to get into the school. So it was that type of thing. But I was just happy at that moment that when we had Mimic, it really was about the guys. You know, working with the kids is a thing, but a lot of people thought it was just about working with kids. It was about getting these men right and giving them purpose in life.
So let me ask you a question, right? In the last month, the city have had 36 homicides, more homicides than we have in days in the month, and a lot of them are happening in our neighborhoods, communities. Why isn't it we don't see a lot of the brothers out here,
yeah, there's power in that.
raising up, and like, yo, enough is enough. These are our kids, these are our children, these are our grandkids, our godkids, our nephews. Why isn't it we not seeing too many Latino men, raising up?
No, and you're right. You're absolutely right. There's power in that, and the city needs to, and not only just city, but folks need to recognize there's power. You utilize those guys who've been trying. There's so many men that reach out to me every day and say, man, how can I get involved? How can I do something? How can I come out and talk? So it's kind of like giving that platform. If you want things to change, you got to bring these guys back out and give them a sense of purpose, because these are the guys in the neighborhoods. These are the guys that still hold respect in the neighborhood. They're able to prevent certain things. I took back, with the help of many other folks, a playground that we rehabbed, and this playground is doing great things, but it was just about being able to come in with your presence and your past for everybody else to take that playground back that belonged to certain drug dealers, that belonged to certain addicts, and we were able to clear that. So it's proof that it can happen. We can make change, but it's a good question. We need to really find a way to get that bigger platform and make noise about that. So when we lose a child or anyone in these streets, we need to rally up and be right there saying, like Mr. Mills did, say, we're not going to have that here. Because he encouraged that. What I noticed that nobody wanted to turn in the shooter for this 3-year-old kid. But when Mr. Mills, someone who was an ex-gang member, executive director, he had his suspenders on and his little bow tie and everything, he got up there on that, and when he spoke, it was not long after that community felt that backing of this organization and the men that were there. They turned this person in. This community that was under siege and scared, but when they finally felt as though, like, wow, like, folks came back and said, we're not going to have this.
Well, moved it out of an us against them kind of discussion.
Yeah.
And most of the time I tell the brothers when I talk to them, man, like, if you can't get a job, create your own. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Find something you could do. Create your own. And give other brothers opportunities. And when I say it's not that hard, it's really not. It's really not. It's just about putting in the work. The same way we stood in them corners and sold them bags, and we spent all night. I used to spend all night down Tiffin, Indiana, selling blue tape. All night. I'm talking about from morning to the next day. And I ain't missed a beat. I do the same thing with my business now. Sometimes I work from 7 in the morning to 7 in the morning the next day. And they don't even, my co-workers, it bothers them. Like, dang, you ain't going to sleep? Nope. Need this money. Because I still have in my business a drug dealer mentality when I'm running my business. And it works. You know why it works? Because it gets me where I want to get. Because I don't take no. You could tell me no. They told me no 4 times to get into the gallery. No. Well, that's not the kind of literature we want. Oh, we have to put this through a panel of people that's going to read your book and decide. I said, all right, cool. And I kept calling the lady back. You put that in the panel yet? Till she texts me and he's like, yo, it's a go. It's a go, So you got to be, you got to put the work in, man. But we come out here and we start taking, no, I'm going back to the streets. That's an excuse to make.
Yeah, I always tell folks when folks mention like a scare straight program, I don't believe in that because at the end of the day, life is harder than prison.
Sure.
And if we give someone the skill sets and if we can figure out life, you don't have to worry about prison. Right.
Right.
prison could be a cop out sometimes for many people. Like, you know what, I might
And
as
it
well just
is.
go back.
And it is.
So it's just about being consistent and being determined. But at the same time, when you talk about transitioning, it's about helping folks figure. You know, when he came home, and when I saw all the folks around you, I was concerned. I didn't know how to make that approach, but I called Roger Zepanik, I believe it was,
He called me.
and I said, you know, I'm worried about him because, you know, I've seen this happen many times. It happened with me. When you got too many people feeling as though, like, okay, you start becoming a poster boy, they start parading you around, and which is all good that you want to give back, but at the same time, you have to make sure that person is okay. Make sure they're good, because it's still a big step.
You see, and that's the problem. Nobody was asking. Maybe Roger and a few other people, yo, you good? But everybody was making you feel like, oh, this is you. This your avenue. This is your lane. You got this. And you start feeling after coming home from 30 years like, man, I never lost it. You start feeling yourself, and you lose focus.
And
I
those folks never been through that.
You know, like I lost focus of what really matters, of what make me happy. I was making everybody else happy, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. You know, I could tell you that now. Like, yeah, I had a job. Yeah, I got my own place. But I wasn't happy. Everything I was doing was for somebody else. If you happy with what I'm doing it. Today, I live my life like I don't mind telling nobody, no, I don't want to go there. I'm cool. You know, because you have to do that for yourself. What I'm doing today, I should have been doing when I first came home 2 years ago. Seriously, I should have been doing that. So it was hard for me to cut some of the people that was in my life when I came home off. Like completely off. Like I'm blocking you from everything. And it's not personal, it's just for me, for my health. That was hard to do. But once I did it, it became easy. So then it became easy to block the next person out.
I don't believe enough people take. I don't personally. I don't think enough people will come home, get therapy. I don't even think it's recommended as it should be for folks coming home. No, you know, humans, we're not built to be locked in a cage. You know, that's a traumatic experience. You know what I mean? Bottom line, you know, and I think we're so accustomed to just having people in prison that we think is normal. You come home and you're fine. But I think that should be a part of reentry as far as, like, it doesn't just have to be like someone with mental health, schizophrenic, anything like that, or bipolar. It should just be, you know, at least have it as an option and strongly recommend that you see a therapist on readjusting. And because that therapist or that type of counselor help you go through that process of what you're feeling, because there's a lot of emotions running through you. There's a lot of feelings. You know, you have your way of surviving in prison, and then this is the world. And how you suppress your feelings and how you want to protect your feelings, and it starts to hurt you with your relationships and everything else. But I really believe that there should be a part of reentry of that you know, that therapeutic component, and try to convince folks, maybe have brothers come on in before they come home and have that talk. Say, hey, man, you know, we strongly recommend that you get that, you know, because life is hard. It will hit you like a ton of bricks if you're not prepared for it once you come home.
Right.
You
You
know,
know, I think for me, I suggest before we go on a commercial break that we should have a group out here or something that when we see brothers come home, listen, man, we could get you a job. Because most of us can't get other people jobs because we in them positions, right? We could get you a job. We can help you get an apartment. We could help you do X, Y, Z. But before we do that, we need you to do something for us. We need you to take some therapy, at least 6 weeks, so you could get acclimated back into the community, right? Because it's the same thing when you're in jail and they tell you you want to make parole, and what they tell you, they give you a list of things that you need to do before you make parole, right? And we're not trying to compare ourselves to that, but I'm saying when you come home after 30, 40 years, even 3 years, the world changed in 2 weeks, right? You need it. You know why you need it? Because it's going to make you feel relaxed. Instead of, I got to do this, I got to do that. I know guys right now, they've been home with me. I get calls every day, yo, I can't take it. It's almost like they want to go back to jail. because the pressure of society. I know some that just be down Center City sightseeing all day, like, and I be like, yo, when is you gonna get it? You know, it's hard. I'm telling you, it's hard. Even for those of us that in positions to do certain things and to live a certain way, it's still hard. Because if I don't have people that I could call, people that I could just vent, I might make the wrong mistake. Because it comes through my mind all day long. I come on better doing this, get more money like this.
You know, they have a model. I was just in North Carolina. I visited Orange County, and it was a model I was very impressed with. They just started. It was started by inmates, where I forgot the name of the organization. I'm gonna get the information for you guys, but it was a process of getting these guys adjusted to going home. And there was an inmate who could develop this model where they met with some guys and they say, hey, here's a trans pass for a month. Here's this. Matter of fact, we got you set up for some job interviews. If you need help with this and that, some clothes, some grocery. And also there was actually letters handwritten by the mayor saying, welcome home. Like you're hearing from the mayor himself saying, welcome home. They're trying to attack reentry on a whole nother level now, saying you're returning home and we're glad you're home.
Right.
And I was looking at that. I was pretty interested in hearing about it a little bit, talking with the inmates and some of the folks about the program. But you're absolutely right. It's something that's needed.
Well, if you think about all the ceremonial things attached to when somebody leaves society, it's recognized in a bad way, publicized in a bad way, with a lot of fanfare, but none of that is reciprocated when somebody returns. I mean, we don't celebrate that, or we don't recognize that.
Yeah.
The same way when somebody has a mistake, that's highly publicized, but all the people that succeed are invisible.
But that falls on us, those that are out here that been through the system, to do that. And right now, we got to go on a commercial break. You're listening to a Justice Conversation on Usala Radio.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Because of you, I feel not alone in this world. And you let me know that it only takes one person to make you feel wanted.
Welcome back to Justice Conversations from the Ivory Tower at the Street. Dr. Brian O'Neill, Luis Suave Gonzalez, and Edwin Desamour. I'll get to that eventually.
You gonna get it?
Yeah, I will. And I want to also mention whether this might be an issue or not, especially with people in prison where showing weakness is not something anybody wants to do, and whether that's tied in with seeking any help as far as mental help is concerned. So is that a barrier also when people come out, because that might be showing a sign of weakness in somebody's head?
You're already labeled an ex-con.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I don't need any more labels, because sometimes seeking help, because I thought that, because I was scared to get help. It took me almost 19 years maybe before I finally got help. 19 years of, like, I felt like I was hiding a sickness, depression and everything else. I was out here working, smiling, laughing, and leading people, helping people, and helping them out with their issues. But I was dealing with my own issues. But I think staying so busy that I was kind of like just avoiding it until to the point where it was actually showing in different ways. Where one day I was hanging out with actually a judge and a lawyer, and we're at a racquetball at the gym, and I overheard the judge saying, "Hey, I'm going to go see my therapist this day." And he was like, "Oh," it came out to be they were seeing the same therapist, and I said, "Hold up, you guys are seeing therapists? You're a judge." They was like, "Yeah, it's like going to the gym. You got to take care of your mind." And I was like, "Really?" So it kind of like motivated me, and I took the next steps to finally seeing someone to speak to and open up to. So it was a powerful movement that, we need to take that stigma off of that, and men already feel as though they're going to think I'm crazy. I can't get a job if somebody knows I'm seeing a therapist. They're going to, like, you're already labeled with the person that's as the ex-convict. You try to put all the kind words you want to it, returning citizens and everything, but you're still labeled.
There are, unfortunately, a lot of professions that's a stigma. I know policing is very similar, and that officers rarely seek mental help because they think it'll taint their record.
And they have the highest
hurt
suicide.
Their employability. Yeah, exactly.
But you know what else, man? When you're in prison, you develop these false image that everybody in the prison know me. I was running such and such organization. I'm such and such. And we think that that's going to follow us out here. Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. So we don't want nobody to look at us like, damn, what happened to you? You supposed to be such and such. You weak. What I found out was that some of the therapists that I go to the therapist themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing wrong with that. And it has given me a peace of mind because it's given me the opportunity to look into myself and deal with some traumatic events that have occurred in my life since I was a child that I try to bury in the background. Like I never talked about it because family don't talk about it. But they pop up in relationships. And I realized that dealing with relationships out here, it's not the same way we deal with relationships in the prison. In the prison, if you don't mess with nobody, I don't mess with you. You just leave and stop talking. You ain't gotta say nothing to me again. And that go on for years. Out here, you can't do that. We can have a disagreement, but we still got to come back and do it. We got an obligation to come back next week and do a show. Whether me and you are talking on the phone or not, So we have to have some common understanding, and we don't learn that in prison. I always said it, when you go to prison, they give you a handbook with all the rules that you must follow. But when you come home, they don't give you no handbook. They don't give you nothing. You on your own. And that is hard. Yo, I'm telling you people, that is hard. That is hard, man. It took me 85 days to learn this, man. 85 days. And I thought I had it. I had about 10,000. I had 2 Facebook pages. I had about 10,000 followers. Friends, what they call them, right? Friends. But when I went to prison this time, only 3 people showed up out of them 10,000 friends. 3 people. And if it wasn't for them 3 people, I'd probably still be in jail. Because parole don't want to hear none of that stuff. When I went to prison, it was like high profile for juvenile lifers. As soon as I saw parole, they was like, oh, you getting a year hit. I'm like, oh, whoa. Next thing you know, I got a law firm coming in. Because my friends, my therapists, right, they went and got a law firm. It was like, whoa, they're trying to do some injustice here. But if it wasn't for that, I'd probably still be in jail. And I learned from that. I learned like, damn, I need to go to therapy. First thing I did when I came back out, I went to therapy. I ain't even worked for 30 days. I said, I ain't going back to work. I went to therapy every day for 30 days till I got another job. And I still go because it works for me. I'm not trying to say they force people to go. That's up on you. But I suggest that if you've been in jail more than 2 years, you should go to therapy, man, and get it. because it could be helpful. It could be helpful. You know, the same way we had suicidal thoughts in prison, them suicidal thoughts come in your mind out here. No matter how good you're doing, they cross your mind once in a while. Like, man, I'm going to give all. Because if you're thinking about going back into the streets, that's suicidal. Because in the streets, you're only going to end up back in jail or dead. And if you're messing around in Philadelphia, it might be dead. Because that's the way the city roll. So I suggest that, yo, if you're listening, get some help. There's nothing wrong with, you see some of the coolest dude that you look up to in therapy, you be surprised. You be surprised who you see in them rooms. You be like, you here too? They just like, you know, so I suggest, man, that y'all take heed, man, and go get some therapy. Get some therapy because it will help. But Edwin, I got a bunch of questions for you, man. Besides that, man, like, you've been through a lot in the last month, bro. Like, you've been through a lot, bro. And to see you still standing, still doing the work that you do, still giving back to the community, man, where you could just say, you know what, I'm taking a couple of months off. I don't even want to hear it. But you every day, every week, man, you just giving back, man. And to me, that's like, yes, that's what I want to do. Because I don't know if I'm built like that. I really don't. You know, I was in prison when my mother passed away. And I know how that felt. I know how it felt not being able to come to the funeral. And not knowing if I would ever visit her gravesite and take flowers. That plays in your mind heavy when you serving the life sentence, man. But I watched you in the last month, man, how you move, bro. And I just want to let you know, man, that's encouraging to not only me, but other people.
Oh,
That
thank
you might not even know, man. Like, that's strong, man. That's like, okay, I'm going through my little struggle. I'm going through my little down. But I have an obligation to you, the community, right? And I just want to commend you for that, man, because to me, man, that's inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
That is very, very inspiring.
No, I actually believe, no, thank you, that at the same time, you know, I always understand that the position I hold, that I want to also still allow people that experience the same thing, have experienced the same thing, that you still can be positive. So I just think that's very important because, yeah, there's doubts in you that want to shut down. But at the same time, with my son's death, I always explain to folks I'm not bitter. I'm sad, I miss him, but I'm grateful for the time I had. I'm grateful for ups and downs. I'm grateful for me evolving and the things I went through with him to be a father and a loving father. But I also, through meeting many of his friends and coworkers, and they, you know, your dad your son would brag about what you were doing, or who you are, what you do. So it's kind of like, you know, the show goes on, life is here, and we're still living it. So, you know, and from there where you spoke about, you know, mental health and therapy, I just want to jump on it. Not just, I don't want people, whoever's listening, to just think about just seeing a therapist. There's many different ways to take care of yourself, not just seeing a therapist, you know. And it doesn't have to be, because not everybody's into the same thing with church or religion, whatever it is, right? You know, mindfulness, yoga. And people laugh. They're like, yoga. I remember one time me and a bunch of guys, we just had a ball laughing the whole time doing yoga because we never did nothing like that before. We were just complaining about how painful it was. But we enjoyed the moment of doing yoga. And I always give people advice too, man. There's little things that help you get back up if you're struggling with being social. Like, for example, if you walk into a dance studio, right, I'm gonna learn how to dance Spanish or line dancing today. Just be bold and sign up for one, and you'd be surprised who you meet, you know, doing line dancing, and then the new people in this world that you're exposed to, or, you know, signing up for a paint class or signing up for a cooking class. You know, there are so many things than hanging back out and slowly fading into the community or you know, with the bad elements. But there's so many different things. I think that I'm even thinking now that we need to be able to put something together for when these guys come home and say, look, even before they come home, these are many different options for you to do to help you transition. You know, and these are the things that are good for you. It sounds funny. line dancing found funny. Well, I'm a line, but it is funny. But you'd be surprised, like, man, I really had a good time. I met some good people, and I was exposed to many good things. So I just wanted to put that out there. Then, yeah, as far as like I said, for my son, I'm gonna keep doing what I do and represent my son. It's not easy. I want to tell people it's not easy at all. I miss my son every day, but at the same time, I can't go backwards. He wouldn't want that, and I have younger boys, my younger sons that are looking at me also to have a dad. So I still have a role and I still have a job as a father, and as a person in this community.
How many boys do you have? How many kids do you have?
Three now. I was four total. So I have a 20-year-old. My oldest son was 30. So I was a young father when I went away. I was 16. My son Desi's 20 years old. He just turned 20. He's a millennial baby. And then my two youngest boys who do the show with me, they're 13 and 11. So, and I have three grandchildren. So a 10-year-old granddaughter, 8-year-old grandson, and a 3-year-old granddaughter. So.
But I just say that, man. I just had to say that because I know people that would use that kind of experience as an excuse to use, relapse, and go back into the streets, right? And we do that often. We do that. I'm telling you, right? I deal with it, and I try my hard sometimes to just like don't let a lot of things affect me. And I always tell people I'm kind of desensitized from when I was in prison where life go on in here. I can't let that affect me, right? And it's almost the same thing out here, but on a deeper level. Because out here, you kind of reconnect with people, so you kind of feel more. When you're away and you haven't seen somebody for 20, 30 years, it's almost like, oh, okay. But I know people that would have used that tragedy to go back out and just go buck wild as an excuse.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm glad you said that because, whoever's listening to it, I'm saying it's a real feeling. Doesn't mean you act upon it. It's a real feeling. When you feel like, explore your feelings, look at it. You know what I mean? Like say, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. And just try to figure out why you're feeling that way. Doesn't mean you act on it. But if you're angry, if you're pissed, if what it is, but, embrace it.
Yep.
And then talk about it, and because a lot of times we try to shut down what we're feeling. Like it's always like, I don't want the monster to come out of me. I don't want this. Hey, if you're feeling this angry about something, if you want to break it, talk about it. And I'm saying break anything, but see what you're feeling and go with that. It's just about evolving and growing and learning who you are and who you are. And instead of staying stagnant. I always got the saying. Every night before I go to sleep, I analyze my day, what I don't like about myself, what I did wrong, and what I'm going to try to do better the next day. And you would think I'm 47 now, I should know it all, but I don't. So every day I got to analyze, and then I work on that one thing I don't like, and I try to make it a habit. They say it takes 30 days to make a habit. Try to make that a habit to change and make it better. So, those are some of the advice for those who are listening, or for those who have family that are coming home.
Hey, but I wanted to backtrack a little bit with your career journey. How did you end up in an administrative position at the middle school? How did that all occur?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I think through the years of not just working at war, different organizations, and out there speaking and having mimic, at the same time, you make yourself marketable. At the end of the day, when you put yourself out there, it's like branding. You brand yourself, because people understand it's good work what you bring to the table. So one day I was at a award ceremony. I actually didn't want to be there. I didn't want to accept awards before. I always felt it's always political, and I didn't want it. But someone kept saying, "Come on, you need to get this award." So I finally came out. And I was kind of burnt out with some of the work I was doing already. And when I was accepting the award, I went to walkouts, and some folks came up to me and said, "Hey, would you like to come out to the school and do some work?" So I was like, "Listen, I got a record, but if you could make that happen," which I was still doubting it. They was like, "Oh, we're going to make it happen. We want you in the school." So they went back and they did their homework. They did whatever they had to do, and they was like, "Okay." So first they brought me in as someone who was doing programs. Then after that, it was like, no, we're going to transition you into being a dean. And I took that challenge on because now instead of me being an advocate, I'm a disciplinarian. You know what I mean? I'm the parole man. I'm the cop. I'm the, all these other things. But now I'm able to hold you accountable, but without. I don't want you suspended. I don't want you in the streets.
Right.
I want you here. So but we're going to hold you accountable. So like we're going to clean some lockers. We're going to do this. We're going to write some norms. But we're going to go through this together, because I want you to get it. So I'm able to do things a little bit different now. We look at what worked and what didn't work. So.
Do you use restorative justice in conflict resolution?
Yes,
tools?
I've took many of those trainings. I used that and many of the things I picked up. You use everything. What they say, how many tricks can you pull out of a hat?
Sure.
You got to have that hat filled up with everything,
Well, I think it's one of my big frustrations as a social worker working with kids was with school systems. Now, this was, 25, 30 years ago. Things weren't as progressive. And ultimately cutting kids' ties with schools and suspending them. And it just led to so many other problems.
Yep.
And once they started the disconnect with school,
Yep.
began the whole process. And they would have also rules about not being able to make up work while you were suspended, so that your grades would suffer, and then you'd feel more hopeless, and it would just compound.
And then you want to be
everything.
suspended because you want to be home.
Right. School is just a negative place to go,
Yep.
where negative things happen. You're humiliated.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody likes to be humiliated.
That's right.
Time and time again.
That's right.
Well, anyway, I just want to say, Edwin, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you.
I'm sad this is only an hour, and we hope you can come back and continue this conversation, with us, because I think our people needed to see influent Latinos in the community doing the work. We don't see a lot of them, but we got some, but we don't see a lot of them. Someone that they can recognize and identify with. They see you. When I see you, I see somebody there. Oh man, that's my homie. Even if I don't know you, because I've been there. You've been there with me, right? So I just want to say thank you for coming to the show, man. I know it was a last minute thing, but you showed up. I want to say thank you to Linda Williams up in Queens, New York. I'll never forget all the times that you sent me that commissary money. When my mom passed away, you took her road, and you was there. I just want to say thank you. So don't ever say that I don't send you a shout out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people like you out there that take care of people in prison, man. I want to shout out all of them. For looking out and not just being a judge and saying you was in prison, I'm not gonna look out. I'm in this book game today because of you. Love you. See you soon. Love everybody on Facebook that's tuning in. This is the ball right here that we all should follow in the Latino community. Because if he could do it, you could do it. Because he's just like you. We see you next week on the Justice Conversation. Our show is sponsored by Westchester University.
Thanks to Dylan for our producer, and our music's by Moby. Thanks again for tuning in. See you guys next week.
Dylan's the man.